we see that there is structural racism basically baked into the entire medicine system. Systemic neglect, from what diseases are prioritized from research, which we're living in a system that is prioritizing profit, right? It's not prioritizing the public health in decision making. So from what diseases get researched, to how our public research dollars are spent, to the patent system, to clinical trials, to all the way down the chain to like what drugs are prescribed and what happens with health outcomes, the whole system. And there are people doing extraordinary work on that as well, who we will also lift up on Twitter after this. But what I'll say about it is this: clinical trials are one piece of this, and for me, it's the most complex. In the United States, Black and brown communities have been subject to exploitation in the system of medical research since the beginning of the country's founding, right? And so we have so many examples of that. So there's huge levels of mistrust. There are people, including people from Black and brown communities, who are working right now to rebuild that trust. And this is where I may be a little controversial, but you asked what I think. I think in the moment of COVID, where Black and brown communities are disproportionately affected, disproportionately dying, I understand why there is a push to make sure that companies are included. And there has been, we saw this with multiple myeloma, we saw this with HIV, where Black people and Black women are just historically excluded. It's crazy if you look at the numbers of that structural exclusion. But there is a balance between rushing to enroll people in clinical trials and actually doing the real work to build trust. And that is not going to happen overnight. Here in Oakland, everybody that I'm in community with, there's still mistrust. People are not going to get that value, be knocking, standing, mixing so many metaphors. You get the idea. They're not going to be rushing to be first in line. Everybody that I know, there are whole communities who do not want to be vaccinated, where that trust has been calcified over time. I'm also hearing from people, though, that they are open to having those conversations, but not in a way where it is driven by stakeholders who have money to gain from the ultimate outcome, right? So we have to be really thoughtful, I think. And this goes back to something, I was talking to someone in India recently, Lena from MSF. She was reminding me that we made such huge strides in HIV because we used the rights-based approach to health, meaning we understood that by elevating community voices and protecting the human rights of communities, we would do the best job at curbing the spread of the global pandemic, which at the time was HIV. We've lost that here. Rights language has just gone out the door when it comes to COVID. There's not meaningful participation of affected communities.